Hello everyone and welcome to another video. I have next to me a stack. I don't even know if I can lift this up. I have here a stack, oh my god, okay, never mind. I have here a stack of books that I have read in the last 2 months, so that's January and February. Some of them I did film in a video and some of them I didn't, so I was just like, maybe people don't really enjoy reading vlogs or challenges and they just want to like have it straight to the point or something. Because I totally understand that with all the rambling that I do sometimes in my videos, but that's why we have this video. So I think I'm just gonna go through the books that I've read in the last 2 months and do like little shorts, what I thought of it, if I enjoyed it, where it's a little bit about, and then just my star rating. I do have to say that reading is subjective, okay? I may have liked something that you didn't, and the other way around. So that all being said, let's just dive right into it because it's quite a stack. I don't even know how many it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's 9 books in the last 2 months, which quite decent, I must say. If you want to see me reading them, you must definitely check out the vlogs. If not, welcome. Okay, so we started off the year great with Beartown. This was a very heavy read, I must say. But Beartown is about a hockey town mainly. The people that live there, it's like a small community that live there, and their entire life kind of revolves around hockey. Mainly about winning the hockey games and stuff like that. But there are these players obviously, and these players have personal lives and family. And something quite traumatic happened to one of the girls who was not in the hockey team, but it happened because of a hockey player. And you kind of see how that changes this entire community, like who believes who, but what really happened. But you also see like the point of view a bit about the parents, how they're dealing with their daughter who just had something traumatic happen to her, and how they're doing that with themselves, with each other, with them as a family. And it's just, I don't know, this really feels like a book that's mainly just about like characters and how people deal with stuff. And if you're interested in reading about characters and character development and yeah, just like reading about how people feel, this is definitely like one of those books that you must have read. Also, it was very, like, this was beautifully written, can I just say. Like, the quotes in this are insane. I'm so sad that I didn't annotate it. 4 stars. 4.5, I would say. It didn't give me the 5-star feeling, but it was so good. It was so good. Then I did read this one, I believe, in a video, which is the sequel of A House in the Cerulean Sea. Some books don't necessarily need a sequel, and I do have to say The House of Cerulean Sea was a 5-star for me. It's a comfort read. I loved the characters in that one. I loved seeing how, I don't know, I just really loved how they kind of made fun of this guy, but in the end it all just, it felt so warm. That's all I can say about it, really. And with this one, I just didn't get it, and I think it's because, first of all, in the beginning, it's a lot of like politic kind of talk, a lot of about what happened to Arthur in the past, and we've already seen a bit of that in The House of Cerulean Sea, but I don't know, I don't think that I really needed a deep dive into what happened to him. And I think it's because in The House of Cerulean Sea I really enjoyed the children. Yeah, it just felt like there was something missing for me in this one, and I found it quite difficult too that all of these children had like their own point of view of life, and they've obviously learned that from Arthur, and then there's this other kid that's like completely okay with who he is, what kind of monster he is, but then they're just, yeah, I didn't really care as much about how they're dealing with that he's okay to be a monster, and that the other kids are like, we're not monsters, but they want to be, some of them want to be monsters just to like have fun at scaring people and stuff like that. And I don't know, I just didn't really care that much for this one, so I think I gave this maybe 3 stars. I don't even know anymore. Let me check. Yeah, I gave this 3 stars. So it wasn't the worst read, but it definitely took me a while, and I'm very thankful that I had the audiobook with me for this one. Then I read Soul Searching, and this was amazing. I love this. I gave this one 4 stars. I loved the relationship between those two. I also loved the whole kind of ghosty vibe. Like, she sees ghosts and she's kind of going back to her hometown because she doesn't see the ghosts anymore. They're suddenly silent. And in her hometown, her parents also want to get rid of this antique store, which is... She really cares about the antique store, but she doesn't really care much about like taking over that antique store. She's also not very close to her family. But then she comes to this town and there's this man, and she's going to be his roommate. And I mean, we all know what happened, right? We all know what's going on. In the meantime, he actually doesn't believe in ghosts, and she's obviously seeing them. She's talking to herself. She's, I don't know, a little bit weird if you would see it on his point of view. But then she takes him onto these trips, and there's like this ghost, and well, yeah, some fun stuff happened. Let's just keep it with that. Some fun stuff happens, and it is a bit of a spicy romance, but definitely like only in like the last 100 pages or something that it became quite spicy, but also that easy to skip if you want. 4 stars. Definitely a good one. Then I read House of Bane and Blood, and I did read this before Somewhere Beyond the Sea, but I just couldn't get into this one. And it felt like, whenever I was reading this, it felt like I was a chapter behind. Like, I just didn't understand what was going on. And I don't know, I just felt very confused a lot of the times. I think once I was like 150 pages in, I was like, oh, I'm actually kind of like starting to enjoy this, and it's quite action-packed. This is about... I didn't even say the title. It's House of Bane and Blood. Did I say the title of this one, Soul Searching? I don't remember. But House of Bane and Blood is about, I believe it's like a town that's divided into different parts, where every part there's like a different family that's like on top, and they have their own little rules. And this girl, she sometimes sneaks out to another side of the town, which obviously isn't ruled by her, and then she just has some fun in a bar, and she meets there this one guy, and in the end nothing really happens. They just talk, but she's talking about like that she has to marry somebody that she actually doesn't want to marry because they need money. That's mainly like the gist of it. Her family needs money, they have to train, so like everybody wants to have a share of that train so that they can obviously bring their stuff around. So she's being forced by her brothers to marry, and she talks about this with this guy, and then the next day suddenly there's this other very famous leader, and he takes her hand, pretty much. He forces her to marry him, and obviously she doesn't want that, so she's trying to get out of it by having like 1 month that she's going to help him with some murders that have been going on. I don't know, it was a good story, but like I said, I felt like every time I was a chapter behind, so that's why I'm also a little bit confused when explaining this one. Like it didn't really stay with me, but I gave this 3.5 stars, so it was fine, but like I was just very confused. What I also kind of really missed, which is what I enjoy about fantasy, is that there's a lot of world building, and there just wasn't a lot of world building. We were really thrown into this world without really much explanation about what's going on. So that's also like kind of like what just bumped me from this story, that I was like, meh. So I don't really remember much of this either. Then I read The Wishing Game, which is a book that I've been actually trying to read for like 3 months or something, and it was on my Kobo, and this month in January I definitely read like every day a page, every day a chapter. So I finally got into it. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was a cute story, but I didn't really felt very connected with the characters. It's about this teacher who really wants to adopt one of her kids in her class, which honestly I find a little bit weird, but she doesn't have a lot of money. She lives with her roommates. it's just not a stable home for that little boy, but that little boy is also struggling in his foster home because those foster parents now have a baby, and he mainly needs to take care of that baby while he's still like a baby himself, pretty much. I believe he's like 5-6 years old or something. Those two got really connected because he had to stay a night or a week or something like that at her house, and then she showed him her favorite children books, which is a Clock Island, something like that. And that was the first time that he spoke that he was asking for her to keep going, to keep reading. And after that, they kind of just become like very connected about this Clock Island, but there aren't any new books out. And suddenly there is a book that's coming out, but only a few people are able to get that book, but they have to go to trials. And she goes there. It's like these people, and they kind of like just become a little bit of the characters in Clock Island, which is kind of like their childhood dream. All of those characters also have something to do with the author, so she also has something to do with him, and it became quite a heartwarming story. But I don't know, maybe I just don't really like kids in books, or maybe I just don't like, I don't know, I didn't really feel connected. Let me just keep it with that. So 3.5 stars for me, which is still fine. It was a good story. I can definitely understand why other people did really enjoy that book. Then I've read The Things We Never Got Over, which is a romance. It's about this woman who runs away from her wedding. One of the reasons she kind of ran away is because her twin sister texted her saying that she needed her or something like that. And so she went to the town where her sister was in, and she can't find her sister anywhere. She bumps into this man who's quite obnoxious, but he ends up helping her a little bit, and they realize when she gets back to her motel that her motel is like completely ransacked, and there's suddenly like a teenager on her bed, just watching her iPad, and she's like, oh yeah, my mom left, and suddenly she's like, that's my niece. And she never met this niece. She didn't even know that she had a niece. And her twin sister is nowhere to be found. Her twin sister just left her child with her. She doesn't have a stable home. She literally just ran away. She's living right now in a motel. Doesn't have any money because most of it was spent on her wedding. And she just kind of like has a little bit of a breakdown, like what the heck is she going to do? And then this man that was helping her to the motel, her car was also stolen. That was the whole reason why he helped her to get to the motel. And he knows this kid. He knows her twin sister, and he hates her twin sister. That was like also like kind of the funny thing, because nobody knew that she was a twin, so everyone thought that they were the same person, and everyone was like super mean to her. Until they like talked a little bit to her, and they were like, oh yeah, you're not her. You're not Tina. But yeah, she has to kind of like deal with suddenly having a niece and being like a parent to her, but also like still being like a fun aunt. And she still like obviously has like a soft spot for her twin sister, because I mean, it is a twin sister. It is somebody that she shared her life with for a very long time. And obviously with the obnoxious guy Knox, some things happened. Maybe some fake dating happens, you know, some yearning, but it was quite spicy, I must say. It was a spicy one, yeah. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed how she like had to try to find her way being an aunt, but also kind of being a mother, and like feeling like the rules, and like trying to connect with this kid. And I don't know, I really enjoyed that. It was a really good one. I know that there are 2 more books in this series, but I don't think I want to read any of that, because honestly I didn't really care much for the other characters, and that's right too. 4 stars. Yeah, good one. Very good one. Then I read Sounds Like Love. I believe that this was kind of like the reading romance for a week. But I read Sounds Like Love, and very cute story, very, I don't know, a little bit heartwarming, a little bit of magical realism, which is what Ashley Poston is known for, and I love her for it. I really do. I gave this one 4 stars too, because I just enjoyed. There's about these 2 people that met each other at a concert, and she's a songwriter and he is an artist, and he's a little bit like everybody's a fan of him or something. Like he's quite obnoxious. He thinks that everyone's a fan of him, and this songwriter is like, okay, well, I don't want that. But at that concert there's like a kiss cam, and it was on them, so they kissed, and after that she suddenly started hearing a melody. And that melody didn't get out of her head, but she's also in like a writer's block, so she's like kind of like struggling like what to do with that. And I don't know why. Well, anyway, the guy comes back to her town and they kind of like start to get into this melody, and she starts to opening up and he starts to open up, and they start writing this song together, and it's just, I don't know, the ending was quite beautiful too, when you realize what that melody actually was, which I'm not gonna say, but it was quite cute that I was like, oh damn. And this guy obviously has like a lot of issues, by the way. Like a lot of he was in a boy band, he had to be the bad boy, so now he's like, I don't even know who I am at this point anymore, which I thought was actually kind of like interesting to read about too. It kind of felt like fan fiction, to be honest, this whole book, but I enjoyed it. I really did. And then I filmed an intimidated read with me, which is my last video that I just posted. I read Brandon Sanderson Warbreaker in that, which I gave 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed the world of the gods in this one. I enjoyed the 2 sisters that were both raised in a way to help their kingdom, and then suddenly it was like switched around and they both have no clue what they're doing. And one of the sisters, who was supposed to marry the god king, is kind of like a little bit jealous about it, because she's like, on the other side she finds it very sad for her sister that she has to like marry this horrible king that they don't even believe in, and they're all doing it for this alliance between those kingdoms. But she's also kind of like jealous, like she's supposed to be there. She's the one that's been brought up to be the god king and not her, and now she just doesn't know what to do, and she gets in she works with some people that she's not supposed to work with, and I don't know, it just became a very interesting storyline from her, but also the storyline from her sister that's dealing with the god king and realizing that the god king is just a puppet. And there's also this other story about one of the gods that's like, why am I a god? Like he has such like a thing of like, he doesn't believe that he's a god. He doesn't understand why he is a god, because he feels like he's never done anything special in his life, and he's trying to figure out who he was before he became a god, and he's trying to figure that out. I really love that story too. I really enjoyed all of these characters, to be honest. It was a very good story, very easy to read too. Then I read The Nightingale, which was a 5-star for me. Oh my god, I would have never thought that I would give this 5 stars, but this story, I still think about it every single day. I still cannot believe how real these characters felt to me. And this is a story about the Second World War, and if there's one thing I really feel like I'm too sensitive to, is the Second World War. But this is like, this tells the story of 2 sisters, and they're both dealing with 2 different things. One sister is like following the rules with what the Germans are telling, just to like keep her family, her child safe, and the other one is like, I want to help the world, I want to help to save France, I want the Germans gone. And she's like being rebellious about it, but yeah, she has to figure out her way of how to do that while being a woman, who at that time was obviously not being seen as like somebody that the Germans needed to be afraid of, which they should have been. They should have been afraid of her. And her other sister has to deal with suddenly a German officer living in her home, which I don't even know how she was able to breathe in that house, even though that man sounded very nice, but like just like that fear, and then having this rebellious sister that's just doing God knows what. I mean, we did know what she was doing, but she didn't. So she's like worrying about everything, and obviously with like the hunger that was coming, there was barely any food, and you just saw the World War in a different perspective, the perspective of two females that were dealing with their own fights pretty much. And I love that. The ending was heartbreaking but beautiful. Yeah, it was a really good story, even though it was really painful to read. 5 stars. I loved it. And then I read The Priory of the Orange Tree, which, don't get angry at me, please. I'm begging you, don't get angry. I gave this 2.5 stars. I'm sorry. Oh, I hate to say it because everyone says like, oh, it changed their brain chemistry and it was like the most wonderful, beautiful story ever, and I just feel like I was waiting for that moment, and I read the 800 pages to find that moment, and I didn't get it. Yeah, this is a story about, mainly you follow these 3 characters. You follow Loth, which is what is he? He's not a prince, but he's one of the best friends of the queen. And then you follow a maid who's actually a sorcerer, a little witch. I mean, she doesn't call herself a witch. I don't remember what she called herself. But she works for the Priory of the Orange Tree, and they have this belief that the queen, if she gets a daughter, the dragon will not come forth. But obviously that did happen. And then we also have this other perspective of a chemist who tries to figure out a way to live forever. Not for himself mainly. He's kind of struggling in his life. He lost the love of his life through the dragon plague, and that's also like one of the side stories in the book. That people are really scared of this dragon plague, but I don't know, I just felt a little bit lost with this story. I think it mainly is because every chapter is like east, west, and I had to remember every time who lived in the east, who lived in the west, and then I obviously couldn't remember that. Peanut brain or something, I have no idea. But you have to read like a few sentences until you knew who you were reading about, and that just took me out of the story every single time. Every chapter I was like, I have no idea who I'm reading right now, and I would be so lost for like a few sentences, and then I would be like, oh yeah, I get that. It was a lot. Let me just say that, it was a lot. And I feel like after 800 pages I still have no idea what happened. I have no idea. The whole fight took about 25 pages, and I was bored. I had no idea what that fight was way too easy to be honest. I would have maybe enjoyed it more if we really like went into the whole fight, you know, like if we were really there, taken along with the characters, and like not having it. I felt like when I was reading the war that happened, that whole fight, that felt like it happened for like an hour or two in the book itself, and I would have enjoyed it more if it was like a few days that went by, you know, like a few days of this whole fight. Yeah, a little bit more suspense in the fight maybe. I don't know, it wasn't a book for me. Yeah, and you know what, that's okay. So I give this 2.5 stars. Don't hate me. Maybe my brain is just too small for this. I don't know, but I read for my enjoyment, and sometimes you just like the books and sometimes you don't. Like I said, reading is subjective. Anyway, these are all the 9 books that I've read in the last 2 months. I've tried to keep it a little bit short. I've no idea, I've been filming for 35 minutes, so I feel like I did a pretty good job with keeping it as short as possible while still trying to explain the books. Did I say 9 books? I have 9 physical books here. I read 10. Good and some less great books, but I'm very proud with how much I've read. I definitely have gotten out of my reading slump, that's for sure. Anyway, I do hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.